Hello, kiddos. This is Grammy Kate reading chapter 15 of The Enormous Egg. And I hope everybody's feeling well and happy. So here goes, chapter 15. In the morning, Dr. Zemer and I went up to the Senate office building. It's a big building right next to the Capitol, where the senators work and figure things out when they're not in the Senate making laws and speeches and things like that. We found Senator Granderson's office on the second floor and walked in. After we had waited around for a while, a secretary told us to step into the inner office. Senator Granderson was sitting in the middle of a cloud of cigar smoke. He got up and shook Dr. Zemer's hand, and he shook my hand, and then he pointed to some chairs for us to sit in. He sat down again behind a great big desk with a glass top. Senator Granderson cleared his throat and leaned back in his chair. "Now, gentlemen," he said, "I want you to understand that I have no personal objections to this dinosaur. I have no doubt it is an excellent animal in its own way. My only interest in the matter is to save money for the taxpayers. My committee is trying very hard to find ways of cutting down the expenses of the government. We want to get rid of anything that isn't absolutely necessary to the welfare of the American people. And right here in the District of Columbia, in our own National Zoological Park, we find a big, expensive animal eating up feed by the ton. Now I ask you, gentlemen, how is a tyrannosaur like that going to help the welfare of the American people?" "Triceratops," Dr. Zemer said. "All right, Doctor," Senator Granderson said. "You can call it anything you like, but the point is, what good is it?" "But Senator," Dr. Zemer said, "you might just as well ask what good is an elephant? They're expensive to feed too." "Oh, elephants are quite another matter," the senator said. And here's a picture of Senator Granderson and all of his cigar smoke. An elephant is a standard, well-recognized animal. You read about them in books and you see them in the circus. They are a solid part of our wholesome American tradition. The elephant has become a symbol of one of our great political parties. But of course, you can have too many of them. One elephant is enough for a zoo. No need to have more than one. But Senator, there are different kinds of elephants, Dr. Zemer said. There are Indian elephants and African elephants, for instance. Don't you think the public should have a chance to see more than one kind of elephant?" "Now, Doctor," the senator said, patting his big hand on the desk, "an elephant is an elephant, and that's all that the man on the street needs to know. If it's in an American zoo, it's an American elephant. So why should he worry where it comes from? But I want to get back to this dinosaur of yours. Where did you get it from?" Dr. Zemer nodded to me, so I answered the question. "It came from our chicken yard," I told him. "And where is that?" the senator wanted to know. "Up in Freedom, New Hampshire." "I see," the senator said. "And just what was this animal doing in your chicken yard?" "One of our hens laid it. She was part Rhode Island red and part barred Plymouth Rock." The senator raised his eyebrows. "You mean to tell me the the dinosaur hatched out of a hen's egg? That sounds mighty suspicious to me. Are you sure someone didn't slip this egg into your hen house when you weren't looking? Did you see any suspicious characters around your place at that time? Yes, no, I said, because I wasn't quite sure what question I was answering. But anyway, I said, the hen hatched it out. She sat on it faithfully for 6 weeks. It was a long job. But Senator Granderson wasn't listening. He sat frowning down at his desktop for a while, then he looked up at Dr. Zemer. You ever seen any dinosaur eggs before, Doctor? Oh, yes, Dr. Zemer said. We have many of them. Where'd they come from? The senator wanted to know. From the Gobi Desert in outer Mongolia, Dr. Zemer said, but those were eggs of the Protoceratops and the senator thumped his fist down on the desk. Gentlemen, he said, I now know what I must do. My duty is clear. This animal does not belong in our National Zoological Park. He is not an American animal, and our National Zoo is no place for him. We must maintain foreign freaks at the public. We must not maintain foreign freaks at the public expense. Lions, tigers, giraffes, all the proper animals, yes, but no un-American, outmoded creatures from foreign places. The dinosaurs are extinct, aren't they? Do you want people to get the false idea that such things still exist right here in America? But, Senator, Dr. Zemer said. Senator Granderson raised his big hand. No, Doctor, he said. Don't attempt to dissuade me. I see my duty. Today in the Senate, I shall propose legislation to make it unlawful to keep any out-of-date, unusual, or unlikely animal in the National Zoo, or in the national parks, or anywhere within the borders of the United States, or its possessions. He got up from his chair and walked over to the door and opened it for us. I will be very busy now, gentlemen, so I must say goodbye. Thank you for your time. The next thing we knew, Dr. Zemer and I were out in the corridor. The doctor stared down at the floor and he looked pretty discouraged. Well, Nate, he said, things don't look very bright for Uncle Beasley. Perhaps it would have been better if we'd just let him stay up in New Hampshire. It's really my fault for getting him into this difficulty. It isn't your fault, Dr. Zemer, I said. You were trying to do the best thing you could for him. You didn't know that things would turn out this way. Dr. Zemer and I went back to the museum. The doctor sat down on the edge of his desk and stared out the window. Then he got up and walked back and forth on the rug with his hands jammed down in his pockets. Finally, he stopped and turned to me. I always feel so helpless when I get tangled up with Congress, he said. I just don't understand how their minds work. I know Archaeopteryx, sorry about that word, when I see one, and I can tell an ichthyosaur from a plesiosaur or a trilobite from a graptolite, but I don't know anything about senators. Why do you suppose Senator Granderson doesn't like dinosaurs? I asked him. What's he got against them? Dr. Zemer shrugged his shoulders. I haven't any idea. He just gets a whim every now and then, and usually just before elections, that he's got to do something to save the country. Last year, he was going to save the country from comic books. Maybe you heard about that. The year before, it was firecrackers. Next year, it will be basketball or outboard motors. You never can tell what it will be next. And the strange thing is that he can get people so excited that they think he's right. He's got everyone so worked up about cap pistols that now they're illegal in every state except Nevada and Idaho. And they are nothing but real guns, and they use nothing but real guns there anyway. One time he proposed a law to get rid of all the buffalo on the government ranges out west, and he almost got it through the Senate. After lunch, Dr. Zemer took me to the gallery above the Senate, and we found some seats right down by the front where we could look over the railing and see just about everything that was going on down below us. One of the senators was making a speech about American broadleaf tobacco, but I didn't listen to him much because I was worrying about what was going to happen to Uncle Beasley. Pretty soon, Dr. Zemer nudged me, and I looked down and saw Senator Granderson walking into the room. The man who was talking about tobacco finally sat down, and the other senators clapped a little, but not very hard. The next thing I knew, Senator Granderson was standing up beside his desk. "Mr. President," he said in a big, booming voice, "I wish to speak today about a subject that affects us all. My fellow senators all know me as one who has constantly devoted himself to the welfare and safety of the American people, and I am sure they will listen carefully as I describe a situation which is not only a needless expense to the American taxpayer, but which also constitutes a grave danger to every man, woman, and child in this great land of ours." He paused for a while and looked around the room as if he expected everybody to clap. "I need not remind you that our government is trying to reduce its top-heavy budget and to lower the staggering tax burden that strains the backs of all American citizens. I myself have spent many weary hours seeking out waste and unnecessary expense in the various branches of our federal establishment. You can imagine my dismay when I discovered an example of such waste right here in our national capital. I am grieved to say this, gentlemen, but right here in our National Zoological Park is an animal that is squandering the taxpayers' hard-earned money at the disgraceful rate of $21.60 a day, every day of the week, Saturdays and Sundays included. And that is more, gentlemen, what is more, gentlemen, this animal is absolutely worthless. It does no honest work, it pulls no plow, it grows no wool, and what is even more, gentlemen, this animal I speak of is no normal creature like the lions and tigers and elephants that roam the woods and plains of our fair country." Someone nudged the senator, and he said this and leaned over and whispered with him when he said this. "Of our fair country, I say," Senator Granderson went on, "or the woods and plains of our sister nations across the seas. No decent, ordinary, up-to-date animal is this, gentlemen, but a queer, freakish survivor of a race that died out millions of years ago, perhaps hundreds of millions of years ago." "That's stretching it pretty far," Dr. Zemer whispered to me. 70 million years is the most I can allow him for the Triceratops. They were no earlier than the late Mesozoic. The senator raised his big hand over his head and waggled a finger at the other senators the way Miss Watkins does then when she's getting ready to scold us in class. "The animal I speak of is a dinosaur, gentlemen. of the type known as the the no, that's not it. The scientific name escapes me at this moment. And here's Senator Granderson giving his big speech in the Senate. At the moment, gentlemen, but it makes no difference what we call it. It still is the ugliest, evilest looking reptilian I have ever seen, and it's a disgrace to our National Zoological Park and to the department that operates it. Can you imagine for one moment bringing the innocent, bright-eyed children of good American families to look at this inefficient, outmoded, and outlandish specimen of a bygone age? Do we want our children to grow up to be forward-looking citizens of our forward-looking country? Then we must not let them dwell on the useless creatures of the past. The foolish mistakes of nature discarded long ago before Columbus planted the American flag on our beautiful shores. No, gentlemen, there must be no living in the past for us, but rather we must bravely face the future and march on together, hand in hand and shoulder to shoulder, to that glorious destiny that lies before us. Some of the senators clapped, and Senator Granderson took a few swallows of water from a glass on his table. I propose to get rid of this monster, Senator Granderson went on. I am submitting a bill before the Senate to make the possession of all such unnatural animals a federal offense. He should be exterminated, and the sooner the better. Another man near Senator Granderson stood up. I agree with the honorable senator, and I want to propose an amendment to his bill. I propose that this dinosaur be skinned and stuffed and presented to Senator Granderson as a trophy in recognition of his untiring work in searching out waste and error in the national government. I pulled Dr. Zemer's sleeve when I heard that. Would they really do that to Uncle Beasley? I asked him in a whisper. Not if we can help it, Nate, Dr. Zemer said. Then another senator got up. What does this dinosaur eat? He wanted to know. It eats grain and alfalfa, Senator Granderson told him. Tremendous amounts of it. And he is growing bigger and bigger, and he eats more every day. Soon we shall all be starving just to satisfy the appetite of this gluttonous beast. He slapped his fat stomach to kind of emphasize what he said. Well, the other senator said in a sort of drawly voice, my constituents in Nebraska rather, would be happy to have him eat all the alfalfa he wants, Senator. Why wouldn't it be a good idea to feed him government stores of surplus grain and alfalfa? We could feed the animal for years on that, and it wouldn't cost us a cent. We've been trying to think of some way to use up all that surplus. How about that? Never! Senator Granderson roared. I wouldn't dream of giving away the surplus food to an ugly beast when the hard-working American housewife has to buy it with her hard-earned money. The American housewife doesn't eat much alfalfa, Senator. A man called from the back row. There was a lot of laughter, and the vice president had to knock on his desk to quiet things down. Well, the arguments went on in this way for a long time, and nobody seemed to be getting anywhere. Dr. Zemer didn't look very happy, and he kept shaking his head every now and then. Nate, he said, I don't know how this is going to come out, but the senators will probably go on making speeches at each other until midnight. And then there won't be enough of them to have here to take a vote, so they'll postpone it until tomorrow. We might as well go home and get some sleep. Excuse me. We got up and went out. Dr. Zemer didn't say anything all the way back to the apartment. He just walked along, looking at the sidewalk. I could tell that he was worried, and that made me worried. After I'd crawled into bed, the doctor came in to say goodnight to me. He sat down on the edge of the bed after I turned out the light. He didn't say anything, and he just sat there looking kind of tired and discouraged. I guess there isn't much hope for Uncle Beasley, I said, trying to sound calm, but my voice came out a little quivery. Well, we won't give up till we have to, he said. It doesn't look too good for us, but we may think of something yet. I sat up in bed suddenly. Do you think we could slip over to the zoo with the truck and load Uncle Beasley into it and sneak him away and hide him somewhere? They couldn't kill him if they couldn't find him, could they? The doctor shook his head. It would be pretty hard to hide anything so big, Nate. A triceratops wasn't really made for running away from things. When something attacked him, he would meet the trouble head on. That's why the triceratops have all those horns and armor plate on the front end. And he was a tough customer, too. Even the tyrannosaur would think twice about taking on a triceratops. Maybe we'd better take a lesson from Uncle Beasley. I don't think we'd get anywhere trying to run away from the trouble. It would catch up with us sooner or later. We'll keep thinking, but it's terribly late. You get some sleep. You get to sleep now, or you'll never wake up till lunchtime. He closed the door softly behind him. I didn't go to sleep for a long time, trying to think of some way to save Uncle Beasley. I could hear Dr. Zemer walking up and down in the next room. He was still walking when I went to sleep. And here's a picture of Dr. Zemer and Nate sitting in the dark. And that is the end of chapter 15. So I hope you enjoyed it. I love you guys. Have a great rest of your day, or have a good night's sleep. And I can't wait to read the next chapter. Love you guys. Hasta luego. Bye.